Hi folks, my name is Allie DeAndrea. Today I'm going to show you how to butcher a deer. This is a white-tailed deer that was harvested here in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to show you how to break this down into each of the primal cuts. First thing that you'll need is a knife. I like to use a 6 to 8 inch boning knife. Boning knives are made for exactly what the name sounds like, deboning, getting the meat off of the bone. The blade is shaped to be able to work around the bones. It's also got a little bit of flexibility to it, which is important. So that is step one, get yourself a boning knife. First thing to do is remove some of this flank meat so that we can expose the tenderloins. So I'm going to start here at the intersection of the hindquarter and the body and make a cut through some of this fascia. I'm cutting straight down until I hit the rib. So you can kind of hear that. Then I'm going to flip my knife and run the blade along that rib. Just like that. This will need cleaned up further, but this meat is great to add to the grind pile. Now let's repeat the same thing on the other side. Next, we're going in for the tenderloins. The tenderloins are located on the inside of the carcass, and they are some of the most tender pieces of meat on the entire deer. So you want to treat these with much care. Now that we have opened up our workspace, we can see the tenderloins a lot better, which will make this easier to remove them. To get started, I'm going to make a cut on each side of the tenderloin. And cut across here at the bottom. With my left hand, I'm going to peel the meat away. And then with my knife, I'm going to make a cut. Peel away, make a cut. Cutting right along the bone. You may think that the tenderloin stops here, but it actually goes up quite a bit further. So I'm cutting around it and following that meat all the way up. See how high up that goes? Just gives you a little bit extra. Up here at the top, I'm gonna make a cut, just like that. This will need cleaned up further as well, but we're gonna set this aside and repeat on the opposite side. It's a blessing that it's so cold outside because we don't have to worry about the meat spoiling. But it's also a curse because my hands are freezing. But the fire's nice. We like defrosting in between cuts. Next, we're moving on to the shoulders. Now, it's important to remove the shoulders before we remove the back straps because there's a portion of meat that kind of wraps around and covers some of the back straps. So by removing the shoulders first, it'll give you a better workspace to access the back straps. The shoulder is really interesting because there's not anything more than meat and some connective tissue holding it together. There's not a ball and socket joint like you experience on the hip. So the shoulder is really easy to remove. All you're gonna do is push away from the carcass and make a solid cut between the two. Where you see this transparent kind of fascia or connective tissue in between the shoulder and the rest of the carcass is exactly where you want to cut. Ooh, just like that. Repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Now it's time for the back straps. The back straps are the second most tender cuts on the deer behind the tenderloins, and they run from back here, right where the hip meets the rest of the body, all the way down, and it kind of transforms into the neck down here at the bottom. So first thing we're gonna do is make a horizontal cut across right where the hindquarters pinch in and meet the rest of the body. There's a natural pinch point where you'll make your cut. All the way until I hit the spine. I'm gonna flip my knife. So now my knife is facing down, and I'm going to draw straight down the spine on this right side. The backstrap ends about right here. So I'm gonna make another little cut, not super deep, but a cut down here on the right side, just to make it a little bit easier as I go. So with my knife blade pointed towards the spine, I'm making a cut straight down. Using my left hand to peel the meat away so I have a better view, and continuing that cut straight down. So I'm pulling with my left hand, and I'm cutting where there's tension as I go down. Once we get down to the neck, there's a certain point where you'll see the back strap is becoming smaller than this other muscle that's running against it. That's about where you want to cut it off. This is the back strap. This is that extra muscle that I'm talking about. So we're gonna make a straight cut. The back strap. Next up is the rest of the flank meat that covers the rib cage on down. This, as you can see, is a little bit bloodshot. This was where the shot went through. This is just part of hunting. It's never going to be perfectly clean and perfectly beautiful. So the blood will wash away, but you definitely want to cut away where there's more serious damage. So again, this will need processed further. All of this will be processed further, but to remove this meat, I'm gonna start here on the corner, and I'm gonna peel away with my left hand and then fillet the meat off of the ribs. And you'll know that you're doing it right if your knife is running across the rib bones as you cut this meat off of the bone. I like to go to about the same point that we cut off our back strap, and you're just gonna make a cut straight across. Let's set this aside and repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Next, I'm going to remove all of the meat in between the ribs. As long as you do not gut shot the animal, and as long as you don't accidentally get the guts everywhere during the gutting process, the rib meat is fantastic to take and add to your grind pile. So to do this, we're just going to stick our knife in between the two ribs, cut one direction, flip your knife, cut the other direction until you have a little strip. And we're going to repeat that all the way down between each of the ribs. This is where the shot took place, so I am going to skip these two ribs. Moving on to the neck. I personally like to grind my neck meat, but you can also keep it as a roast. And all we're going to do is continue that same line that we created from cutting the back strap off of the spine. We're going to continue that all the way down. Just like that. Then we're going to grab with our left hand, pull the meat away from the bone to create a little tension and some space, and then make a cut and literally just cut the meat away from the bone. It's really as simple as that. One half of the neck, we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. I'm going to lower this down just a little bit. And now I'm going to make a cut with the saw right here where the hindquarters come down and meet the rest of the body. Just need to cut right through the spine. Yeah, that's the spinal cord. So I'm gonna cut that with my knife. Oh, there she goes. Lower this bad boy down. I'm gonna take this off and move this to the tailgate of the truck or a table, just anywhere that you have a flat surface that you can work on getting the hindquarters off of the pelvis. I'm gonna start back here on the top of the deer, and I'm gonna make a cut down each side of the spine until I hit the tailbone. Ah, look at that. All right. Pulling the meat away from the bone and then making a cut. Cutting around where the tailbone is and where the booty hole was, and straight down. Same thing on the opposite side. Pulling the meat away, cutting with my knife, and then cutting around the tailbone. Straight down. There's a couple bones that protrude off of the pelvis that you need to work around. So up here, near where we made that cut for the backstrap, there's a bone that comes out kind of like at a Y angle on each side. So you'll need to work the meat off of that. And all you need to do is rest the bone against the knife and cut the meat away. Take your time doing this. It's better to be slow and make sure that you're not accidentally losing any meat as you cut away the hindquarter. The second protrusion is back here. It's kind of in line with the booty hole, and it's just a small piece of bone that comes out, and you, again, just need to work your knife around it to make sure that you get all of that meat off. So I've worked one side off pretty good. I'm gonna repeat the same thing on the opposite side before we flip this over. Okay. Flipped it over. Now we're gonna do the same thing from this side, cutting the meat off the pelvis bone, starting here at the top and just tracing the outline of the pelvis all the way down. As I'm cutting, I'm actively pushing the hips down and away to expose right here. This is the hip joint, right in here. So you want to get your knife in there, cut around, and use a little bit of leverage, push that hip down and open. Now eventually the cuts that we're making from the inside are going to meet up with the cuts that we are making from the opposite side. Ball just popped out of the joint, which makes our lives a lot easier to be able to get in there and carve that meat off the bone. We're almost done here. Now remember up top that annoying Y bony protrusion that we had to cut around on the other side with the knife blade pointed up, and this side of my knife resting along part of that ball joint. I'm gonna follow the line of the pelvis all the way up till I hit that bone. So I can't go any further here, and cut. Ooh, she's right in here. There we go. Pelvis is removed. The last thing to do to finish this out is just to cut the bottom portion of this leg off, and then you have successfully completed part one of butchering your deer. From here you can clean up each of these cuts, package them, and then you will have many, many wonderful meals ahead of you. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. For more helpful videos like this and for all of the gear that you need to process deer, you can head to MidwayUSA.com. I'll see you guys in the next one.